Hi, Nick.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. Getting started slowly on coffee for my morning. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm having my coffee equivalent.
I was about to say that's the sound of sugar and or caffeine.
Yep. Yes. How's things, man?
Things are pretty good. My laptop's acting up, so I don't have video, but you might be able to hear my coworker here.
My dog is asleep at the moment.
And I've got a little tiny kitten sitting on my lap who is a purr box today. And she's about to be unhappy because in a half hour she goes to the vet for some shots. So to make
Yes,
her as happy as possible for the moment, and hopefully she remembers that.
indeed.
I'm wondering how many people we're going to actually get today because there's so many different things going on at the moment, and
Yeah,
we don't have a whole lot to talk about. I've got a couple things to that are fairly minor to make sure we follow up on in
yeah,
the coming weeks, but we can talk about those. We'll give people another minute or two, I guess.
yeah. I wanted to ask you actually about I had a couple of requests as the first person who opened the issue. I think for I've got one request for a docs PR and one request for the blog.
Yep. Yeah, that's basically that's what's on my list for to talk about for the day. I'll type these in the minutes just for agenda wise, and then we can get into it in a few minutes if anybody else joins too. Otherwise, just to sync up us.
Let's see, Tim.
Is that Josh's voice? So somehow Zoom is in a weird state for me. I'm not showing, but myself and Nick in the meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what I did. Ha. So as I was starting to write things for the agenda today, the couple things that we probably should talk about, I noticed that we didn't have the recording linked from last time, so I grabbed it, but YouTube then started to autoplay, but with like a minute of silence at the beginning, so that window was long buried. Like
I
hearing disembodied voices and like, what's
was like,
going
what?
well, partly Josh has had issues where Zoom like misidentifies him, and I was like, is he just showing up as blank now or what? All right,
Yeah.
I'm just mildly crazy. All's well. All right, we may as well get going. It's 8 minutes past. I
Yep.
jotted a couple things in the agenda and should have done that last week so it was there and clear for anybody who wondered if we're going to be talking about anything. So the the two meta things are, well, really the one meta topic at this point is documentation.
Yeah, agreed.
How do we spread the word? So the two specific things there, then blog post. The release team has reached out for that, and I will start a Google Doc for that,
Okay, sure.
and then we can kind of collaborate on it. I think this should be fairly lightweight. Shouldn't be too big of a deal. The only question, I'd wanted to start this like last month, but I was kind of waiting to see what happened with respect to 1.16, 17, and 18. Oh, and back up for anybody who's listening to this on the recording or checking in, everything that we've been talking about so far has been about increasing, well, so far kind of this year after all the discussions last year, we've been discussing increasing the patch support timeline for Kubernetes releases to 1 year, where previously it had been 9 months or sort of 3 active releases at a time. We'd proposed a cap. It went into the enhancements repo as provisional earlier this spring, and then last week it merged as implementable. As it's written, it covers 119 and newer, getting the 1 year of patch support. And there's been discussion that kind of petered out around if or how we do that for maybe 1.18, 1.17, 1.16, which are currently in support. So if as we make a blog post, we just have to weigh those things. We can definitely talk about the basic state with 119, mention that there's discussion for others, point over to the locations where those discussions are, see if maybe we get some additional useful input there that sways the conversation one way or the other. But I think we need to be careful not to sort of send a incorrect message on those early releases. And it's hard because the message right now is incomplete. We would maybe overstate things if we say that it's not going to happen, but we maybe give too much hope.
We say it is, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have to balance that. So then the other thing related to that is just sort of formal docs, like a blog post right now to say like, hey, this change is happening. That's cool. But anybody who comes along to the project right now, like if you go to case.io, you can't really figure out easily how the project makes releases and does support. So we need to find a place for that documentation to live.
Mm.
And then ideally, as we're doing our scheduled releases, which at this point we're making patch releases on a monthly cadence, as we keep that schedule up to date, we need a way of doing that more mechanically instead of just somebody manually editing a markdown document, or as we have things in multiple repos and it becomes multiple PRs against multiple markdown docs, or the Netlify related things on the official website. So what we've been talking about for a while in SIG release is moving over to a machine readable schedule, and SIGDocs was interested in that. We've got the early starts of that now. There's a tool linked in the minutes for a schedule creator or schedule builder, and an initial draft PR of the first implementation of that. And if we start operationalizing that on the SIG release side, then it should be something that SIGDocs can rely on, but we just need to go have an additional conversation with SIGDocs. Like, does that look good? Is it something they could use? Is there something additional different they want? And it's on my to-do list for the week to go talk to them about the current shape of that.
Cool. That makes sense to me. I really like the tooling. It's neat.
So those are the main things really that I wanted to just mention today, and really like I had said last week with the stuff coming out of SIG release that I would chase that down with SIG docs. So I'm happy and able to do that. And
Yep.
then especially on the blog post, I would like to have lots of eyes and hands on drafting that, but I'll get some initial something started for conversation and share out a Google Doc.
Awesome. I think I'm currently on the SIG releases list as the person who should be making a PR, a docs PR. Do you want me to like open a placeholder PR or
So
while we figure it out, or do you want to?
I think that we need to talk to SIG docs first. Like I don't know
Yeah, I don't either. So,
where we would meaningfully make
yes.
that PR. I mean, you could do a placeholder PR, but it's like, I mean,
So they've asked that there be at least a placeholder PR by June the 12th.
yeah. And and so one other thing that came up in the release team meeting on Monday that should be getting some announcement. They're going to push those out a week or two.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure a week. So the 12th, while it feels like it's looming, isn't actually looming against us.
Okay. Good.
We
Good
could
to
make
know.
a placeholder PR that would just be like a dummy PR against a random file, but that's
Silly.
not
Yeah.
as useful. So I think
Yeah.
in the issue, if you want to assign it to me and say we're going to talk to SIGDocs to figure out where we should place this, and then I'll drive that. That at least sends the message to the release team docs folks that we are doing.
Yep. Awesome.
Uh, what do you want to place in the website?
We want to have some page or blurb on a page that describes what's currently in support right now, for example. So like if you went to kates.io, you're running Kubernetes 1.13, you could find out that you're not going to get support on that. Or if you're running 1.18.1, you want to know what's the current release. If you're looking at the 118 docs, for example, like maybe this is per docs branch, because if you're looking at the 118 docs, you might want to see like 1.18.3 is the current release. But when 1.18.4 comes out, have the docs, whatever, like if that's a little banner at the top of the 118 docs or something, I don't know, or however it gets implemented, but have it flow through to show what the current supported releases are right now.
Yeah, there is an existing page that is using automation. There is a constant defined somewhere. What is the current version? And based on some scripting templating, it's going to give you the list of supported versions.
Yeah, and they've been asked to have that to get more detail than that. So that's where we're looking at, like, could we have, in addition to just like that thing that says 18, 17, 16, have it say the current release is foo and the next release is expected to be on date, whatever. So, actually, so this page, since it does mention the old release cycle, maybe I could go ahead and make a placeholder PR against this one as a
Mhm.
starting point, just to update it relative to what we're talking about, since it has the 9-month info.
Yeah. I mean that probably makes sense as the place to start then.
Yes, and also we are setting pretty much a completely blank placeholder. So this has been a practice. Like you can just touch this file and the placeholder is accepted.
Yeah. And so one of the tricky things on this perhaps is that file does exist in each of the branch documents with slightly different info in it. So like,
Yeah, that is why it's not a good idea to extend the support SKU for old versions with respect to the
Yeah.
website, because the
Yeah,
website doesn't
docs
even
change.
support backports. So
Oh, it doesn't.
yeah, it's unofficially, so it's not supported officially by the docs team. If you go to like the top right of the website, there is a list of versions,
Yeah.
and I believe there is a disclaimer in every old version. This old documentation is no longer actively maintained.
Yep.
So if you extend the support window for an old release, you have to convince SIGDocs that you have to patch the old documentation. But that's not big of a blocker. They're going to accept it,
Yeah,
probably.
we can, and right now it's not an issue as long as, I mean, we get this change in for 119, it's on their master branch, it flows into the 119 branches it's created and okay. But there may be some fuzziness. I still worry a little bit about the 119 release. It's shaping up to be at least a 5-month release. We're gonna maybe get 3 releases this year. But how the cadence looks going forward, like we may end up swizzling some of these older docs because how we're doing things is kind of in a fuzzy flux right now. I guess we'll see what happens, and we can just focus on getting the current stuff to reflect what we're intending, at least right now, even if it does shift again.
Yeah, also the placeholder PR has to be against the dev-119 branch. This is a requirement by SIGDocs. All PRs that are going to introduce new features should be against a dev-branch. And also the website has a very complicated merge process that nobody understands. So yeah, that was my suggestion about the branch.
Yeah, that's kind of where I figure I'll just go start a conversation with SIGDocs folks to say, like, how should we do this? And there's a couple issues between docs and SIG release about fixing this up, because we had broken that placeholder previously that they keyed on for tracking the current releases. So as we try to get towards something better so that it's more descriptive for the readers, we gotta figure out what the right interlock is between the automation on the two sides. And the release team in the issue, so in Kubernetes enhancements issue 1498 for that was the one associated with this KEP, the release team's docs people had reminded to do it on the dev-119 branch.
Yep. Okay, so I guess yeah, you've got both of the action items at this point. What else do you need us to do?
I don't think anything. I figured I know docs people more or less in my time zone, so that's sort of why I figured like I would
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
take that on versus you.
Yep, I'm perfectly happy for you to do it, man. Like it's no problem at all. Yeah, but yeah, I mean they're gonna ping me about it currently, so um,
And the main thing I think is once I get a little bit of a Google Doc draft, a few paragraphs talking about the thing for the blog, that just to get some more eyes on that and some, because words are hard.
yeah. I will definitely help. Definitely help with checking that over.
Was there anything else anybody wants to chat about today, or should we call the meeting?
I'd be happy to call the meeting.
All right. We'll try and get the doc stuff rolling. And like I mentioned, I'd been going to do stuff last week, but then as people started talking about pushing the dates out, that meant it pushed lower on my to-do list and didn't happen. But it's on the list of priority things to get lined up this week, especially just because I think it starts with conversation with SIGDocs to find the right place.
Yeah, awesome.
All right.
Yeah, yeah. Just and mention me on anything, and I will contribute thoughts or whatever else you need me to do, man.
We'll do. I'll the draft blog post I'll throw out to the Slack channel to get everybody, and I'll mention you also.
Yep, great.
All right. Have a good oh, I think we're like the three of us are evenly distributed around the globe. So I'll just say have a good the day you're in.
Have a good rest of your day.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
See you
Bye-bye.
later.